Brett Bruen joins me now. He's the president of the Global Situation Room. So, Brett, the EU says that it could not recognize opposition leader Juan Guaido as the president of Venezuela, but it might do it if, in fact, the government does not hold new elections within the next few days. How significant is that decision?
Well, I think it's an important step. The EU has a lot of sway, more sway, in fact, in Venezuela and Latin America than the United States in some respects. And they are playing traditional diplomacy. They have set a deadline, and they are going to establish the consequences if the Maduro regime doesn't honor its commitment to hold elections. That being said, I think the Trump administration has had a mixed record up till now. They've held a strong position, but at the same time, it's been a little bit haphazard and hasty in some respects. So I'm concerned that we don't have a strong strategy coming from Washington.
France, Spain, Germany, the United Kingdom have taken a much tougher stance. They're giving Venezuela 8 days. They have to hold those elections. How likely do you think that is to actually happen?
I think it is increasingly likely. The military is looking for a way out. I should say a number of officials within the military are looking for a way out, and this may well be a path. But that being said, a lot can change. The situation on the ground is very fluid. I served at the embassy in Caracas, still have a lot of friends there. And I think, unfortunately, we may see an effort by Maduro to create a confrontation before those 8 days are up.
We know Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spoke at the UN earlier, urging the United Nations to align their support with the U.S.-backed opposition leader. It seems to be exactly what the White House wants. How successful do you think the White House will be?
I was disappointed with Pompeo's speech. Unfortunately, I think what we saw was a more traditional, outdated American policy towards Latin America, when what we really need is a approach that is led by Latin American countries and where the United States is playing a more supportive role. Pompeo was just too aggressive and played into Maduro's hand.
You know, Pompeo has also put former U.S. diplomat Elliot Abrams in charge of the efforts in Venezuela. What do we know about Elliot Abrams and his history, particularly with this country?
Well, he has a long history in Latin America. I have to say, I think he is someone who brings experience and needed experience at a time when the State Department sorely lacks it. Also, I would mention that the situation for our diplomats in Caracas is very precarious right now. I served at that embassy in Villarriba. They are going to be in a siege mentality over the next several days, and we do risk that Maduro will try to provoke a confrontation.
You know, in 2002, under President George W. Bush, Elliot Abrams was allegedly linked to a failed coup to overthrow Venezuela's former president, Hugo Chavez. What does this tell us about the ongoing situation? And will the Venezuelans even look at him as some sort of an honest broker at this point?
Well, as I said, I'm concerned that a lot of the statements coming out of the State Department, the White House, have been too bellicose. They are doing saber rattling. We heard it from Pompeo this morning at the United Nations. That isn't the kind of rhetoric that is going to help to calm the situation or to convince military leaders that they should throw their lot in with Juan Guaido.
Nicolas Maduro still apparently holds the support of the Venezuelan military. If he's got the military on his side and the people on the ground potentially, what can the U.S. actually do to force his hand at this point?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I'm speaking to you from Georgetown, where I'm teaching a crisis management class at the moment. And we were talking about this issue. I think the key opportunity for the United States, and more importantly for Latin American nations, is to try and convince a small number of military leaders that Maduro is the past and that Guaido and democracy is the future. And they have to do it in ways, I think, that are both using carrots and sticks. I want to see more from Latin American leaders speaking directly to those military leaders in the coming days.
When you look at the situation on the ground in Venezuela, sky-high inflation, economy not doing well, so how is it possible Maduro still has the government support and backing?
I think it comes down to the military. He has paid off key military leaders, security officials, so that he can maintain a grip on power. And they've used an iron hand when peaceful protests have broken out over the last several years. Unfortunately, it has led a lot of those opposition leaders to flee the country. Others are in jail. So he's done a pretty effective job at silencing his opposition and keeping the people under his thumb.
How do you think the people on the ground there will take it if the U.S. is backing another leader? Could this potentially backfire for the White House?
I think it can, and those are the concerns that I'm evoking. As somebody who served as a diplomat in Latin America, you know very well the history, and the United States has a checkered past when it comes to Latin America, something that leaders like Chavez and Maduro use against us. So we have to tread very carefully, and I think Pompeo is acting a bit like an elephant in a china shop, and while I understand the intent of it, we need to let others speak on behalf of the aspirations of the Venezuelan people, because coming from Washington, it doesn't resonate well on the streets of Caracas.
Bruen, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.